Welcome back, everybody. This is Retro Replay with a retro review of Stampede for the Atari 2600. Stampede was written by a single developer named Bob Whitehead for the Atari 2600 and was published by Activision in 1981. As are with most Atari 2600 games, this is a very simple game. The controllers only had one button, so you only have a four-way joystick with one button to push in this game. And really, you only need two ways on the joystick because you can only move up and down. But the goal of the game is to lasso as many cattle as you can without letting any pass by you. And obviously the goal is to get as high score as you can. You can see at the top of the screen there is a number 3, and you can kind of consider that the number of lives you have, but it's basically the number of fails. So every time a cattle gets by you without you being able to lasso it, it drops a number off of that. So basically, after 3 cattle get by you, the game is over and you have to start over. The cattle are labeled in different colors. The darkest cattle move the slowest, so the brown ones move the slowest and you can prioritize those last. The orange ones move at a medium speed and the white ones move at you very quickly. You'll notice that there's also black cattle that are on the screen that just sit still. They don't move. Those are worth the most points and are often the most difficult to get. Typically, the black cattle are preempted by a white skull, a cow skull, coming across the screen, as you can see right there. Usually, the black cattle follows it up, just like it did right there. So you're usually warned ahead of time, but they are still very difficult to judge, just because your horse that you're on, your cowboy, I guess you could say, just moves very slow up and down, so it can be difficult to get to them. The only other gameplay element to this game is for all the cattle that are not the black ones, you don't have to capture them right away. You can actually run into them and it will bump them all the way over to the right side of the screen, like I did right there with those ones at the top. So if you can't get to them, you just have to run into them and they will move all the way to the edge of the screen. Now, there are 8 difficulties in this game, which give a little bit of variety to the gameplay. The first 4 difficulties move at normal speed, which is what I showed initially. And now this is level 5, which moves the pace up to double speed. And as you can see, the cattle are moving across the screen twice as fast. It's much faster, much more difficult. This game is very simple, but it is very challenging. It can be very difficult while you're playing. It's just a classic old-style arcade game. The controls work great. The gameplay is just very simple, and it makes it very challenging, just like old games were. The difficulties in this game, I usually like to stick to levels 1, 2, and maybe 3. This is actually level 3 that I'm showing here, and as you can see, the cattle not only move left or from right to left on the screen, but they also move up and down just slightly. They just move a little bit. So that's the difference between levels 1 and 2, that the cattle move up and down. On level 3, they group them together. As you can see more, there's actually 3 cattle in a row in some of these groupings. So that's the challenge on level 3, as they increase the number of cattle on the screen. I really do appreciate the simplicity of this game. It is still, to this day, a very fun game to play. Compared to modern controllers having 12 buttons on them and dual sticks to move and D-pads and everything else, this is just a 4-way joystick and 1 button. I mean, it really doesn't get much more simple than that. And that's all this game is. And it's so easy for anyone to pick this up and start playing it. The games are usually very short-lived, so you can play with other people and pass the controller around, and it's just fun to play. You know, the controls work great. The graphics are what they are. You know, for the time, I would say these graphics are good. You can tell exactly what you're looking at on the screen. You know that's a horse, you know it's a cowboy with a lasso, and you know those are cattle. And there's fences scrolling by. I mean, look at the scrolling. It's great. So, you know, it's so simple, and it just works so well for what it is. I did grow up with an Atari 2600. I shared my childhood bedroom with my older brother, and we had an Atari 2600 in our bedroom with an old crappy CRT television. And I played these games all the time. I was born in 1980, so it was about mid-80s, maybe 1984, so I was probably around 4 years old when I was playing these games. And, you know, of course, they're simple, so they were easy for me to play, but I do have fond memories playing these games. Like this, Stampede, Circus Atari, Kaboom, which is absolutely a fantastic game, and I do hope to come back and do some reviews on those games also. You can tell in this video that this is actually really good video quality for this game. I'm not playing this on a real Atari 2600. I actually recently built a MiSTer FPGA hardware emulation device. So this is a hardware accurate emulation of the Atari 2600. This is actually an Atari 7800 running 2600 games because it was backwards compatible. And, you know, it just runs in 1080p, you know, perfect quality, which is really cool. You can add all kinds of different screen effects. You can actually make it look like an analog CRT connection. But I do like just showing it, especially for YouTube, showing it in this really crystal clear quality. And since I got this MiSTer device, I'll be able to make a lot more videos like this of these old consoles in this really high quality, which will be great. But that's going to wrap up this retro review of Stampede for the Atari 2600. Just to recap, you know, this is a simple game. It has simple graphics, simple sound, simple everything. The gameplay is still fantastic. It is so much fun to play. And I still enjoy coming back and playing this game whenever I get the chance. It's excellent. But thank you for watching the video. If you're enjoying the content, please click that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching. Hope to see you again soon.